What's up, guys? Hey, so check this out. Last night, about 5 minutes after my live video, they demonetized it. They slapped on a misinformation thing and shadow banned it, and then put a UN report to counter what I shared. So, if that doesn't tell you we're onto something, I don't know what does. So, anyways, I'm repackaging just a segment of the report I covered last night. This report, I guarantee you, it's bringing down everything. In fact, even today, Trump announced he's no longer federally subsidizing any of the climate stuff. So they just don't want this report out there, this official U.S. document. So I'm the only one covering this, and now I know why. Nobody else wants to be demonetized on YouTube. But anyways, check it out. If you didn't see it, you're going to want to watch this. See you guys later.
You guys ready? Because we're going to launch right into this report tonight. We're going to start with it, and then we're going to go into the news because, again, I said it's a little slower news day. I am going to cover some stuff, but I really want to get into this because this is massive. So apparently the Department of Energy put out a massive report just under a month ago about climate change and CO2 emissions. And guess what? Nobody reported on it. You want to know why nobody reported on it? Well, I'm going to show you. And it's pretty shocking. But are you guys ready for the entire climate change narrative to just be absolutely destroyed forever? Because that's what you're going to see in this report. And now I know why nobody reported on it. Not one person, not even in conservative media. This thing has been buried, and we are going to make sure it gets out there tonight. So again, if you like, if you like secret reports being let out. But all right, check this out. So this is the official energy.gov page, this report they released today. It's called, or not today, July 23rd. So 3 weeks ago, Department of Energy. It's www.energy.gov. You can find their official site. It says it's called a critical, man, it's a little sensitive here. Here we go. A critical review of impacts of greenhouse gas emissions on the U.S. climate. Critical review. This is all the data, no spin. And this is wild. So I broke it down. Got the breakdown within the notes for you guys. You all ready for this? So this is written by Energy Secretary Christopher Wright under Trump. It frames energy as a driver of human flourishing, argues that media often exaggerates climate risks and downplays uncertainties. Climate change is real but not catastrophic. Global energy poverty is the greater threat. Oh yeah. It gets so much better too. Main findings. Look at this. Impact of CO2 promotes plant growth. We're actually going through a global greening and improves crop water use efficiency. Lowers ocean alkalinity, but changes are within natural variability. Coral rebound challenges alarmist narratives. They found that a lot of the coral reefs are regrowing. This is, I'm going to go through all this because it's going to undo much of the narrative we've been fed for the last 30 years. And further, for some people, they've been talking about climate change in reference to global warming since the late 80s, early 90s. Just like us being told the rainforests were going to be gone, all that stuff. But it goes back even further if you go back to the 70s when they were talking about global cooling. And it just shows you how much they've lied to us. Climate response, the models predict too much warming, surface and troposphere. Data-driven estimates suggest lower climate sensitivity. The common IPCC scenarios are implausible worst cases. So IPCC is the main driver of everything we're told. This is what is fed. They take the IPCC reports. That's what they feed us in the in our schooling, in our media, everything. They've lied to us to steal from our future, our kids' future, and to enrich themselves. This is blowing it all open, that this is an absolute scam. Many of us have known this for years, but we didn't have the official documents to prove it to us. We just had to rely on other scientists doing their work on the outside, countering the narrative, very much like COVID. And now we have the official government documents and nobody wants to cover it. But this is the official science now, folks. Extreme weather, no long-term U.S. trends in hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, or droughts. U.S. temperatures are less extreme overall. The wildfire risk is more tied to land management than climate. Read that again. Wildfire risk more tied to land management than climate. Think about that if you live in Canada, if you live in California. It's because they do a terrible job. Again, Trump was saying this before any of this came out. Sea level, global rise, about 8 inches since 1900. But listen, U.S. tide gauges show no clear acceleration. Local subsidence is a key driver. Interesting. Attribution uncertainty. Models and data gaps limit certainty in attributing events to CO2. Solar variability may explain more warming than IPCC accounts for. There it is. You know, guys, if you run actual models, in fact, the Washington Post, of all people, ran this about a year ago. They showed a climate model going back to the ancient times and showed that it was actually warmer in Greek and Roman times, which many of us have known, but we've never seen it printed before. The Washington Post put this out there, showing that the Earth naturally goes in cycles. And this is what this report is actually the official government report telling us that, guys. This is wild. And again, they don't want this out there. And so I cannot believe this is the first time I think I've ever reported on something that I've never seen reported anything else. This is like, it's an actual exclusive in a way. I mean, maybe somebody else did, but I haven't seen it. And I watch a lot of news. I check a lot of news. Nobody posted this on Twitter, anything. This is the most buried report I've seen in recent times. This is wild. It's an official government report. How is this not everywhere? It is crazy. Societal impacts. Agriculture benefits from CO2 fertilization. Cold kills more than heat. The warming may reduce net mortality. This is so awesome. Social cost of carbon, highly assumption dependent, possibly overstated. U.S. policy, U.S. emission cuts would have undetectably small effects globally. Aggressive mitigation risks harming growth more than climate itself. Wow. What a statement right there. Look at this. Direct human influence on ecosystems and climate. So CO2 as a pollutant. Unlike EPA criteria pollutants, CO2 is not toxic at ambient levels. So I guess the farting cows aren't going to kill us all, guys. Those methane gases aren't going to wipe us off from the face of the earth. So I guess that means let's bring the beef back. I'm tired of paying $5 a pound. Let's bring it back. That's for a hamburger too. Like if you want a steak, you're looking at like $15 for a ribeye a pound now. It's insane. Let's make, we got plenty of grazing land. Let's bring the cows back. Their farts aren't killing us. Look at this. The OSHA workplace limit could be 5,000 ppm, parts per molecule, isn't that? Versus, this is the current standard because of the insane people running our government. It's at 430. This would be acceptable, 5,000. That's over 10 times more allowance. We're nowhere close to danger levels. CO2 is essential for life. Ambient levels well below harmful thresholds. Here's the direct impacts. Global greening. Satellite data shows 25 to 50% of Earth's land area has greened since 1982. Oh, there's no more trees. We're not going to have trees. We have more trees than ever. We have more grass than ever. Everything is amazing right now. Parts per million. Thank you, Randy. Parts per million, not parts per molecule. What am I thinking? I just, sometimes when you come across an acronym and you're running through it and you haven't thought about it in a little bit, you try to make it up on the fly and just hope you're right. So I missed on that one. Oh, well. Global greening. Satellite data shows 20, again, that's insane. That's a quarter to a half of the world's land more green since 1982 in the last 43 years. the world is much better off. 70% of this is to the CO2. I heard this theory once that this person believed that God had given us oil so we could burn it and get the CO2 back in the air to regreen the earth and warm the earth back up. This would support that theory over the last 40 years. Pretty wild. Yeah, Donna, I've heard of Seventh-day Adventists. Ever Trumper, we've got more people managing the more trees and forests. Well, that's part of it as well. Yeah, more people managing it. Photosynthesis. Most crops, C3 plants like wheat, rice, soy thrive under high CO2. C4 plants are more efficient under low CO2. So the corn, we could do without less corn. We're subsidizing the snot out of it anyways to make ethanol, thanks to George Bush, thinking that ethanol was going to be healthier for us than burning gasoline. That's so stupid. Instead, it just gums up all of our engines. Ethanol is terrible. It's terrible. It's less efficient. It sucks. And we ripped out a bunch of our good crops and planted corn as a result because they were subsidizing it. We could get rid of more corn. We don't need all this corn. Let's get rid of it. Water efficiency. Higher CO2 reduces plant water loss, improving crop resilience in arid regions. We need it. We need it. We need it for our crops. Oceans, the pH dropped slightly, 8.2 to 8.04 since pre-industrial times. That's early 1800s. So the pH has dropped 0.16 since pre-industrial times, guys. That is nothing to worry about. Still alkaline within the natural long-term variability. So our water's fine. Coral reefs. The Great Barrier Reef shows recent strong rebound despite rising CO2, challenging acidification collapse claims. Here's a human influence on the climate they found. Radiative forcing. CO2 is dominant human warming agent, but aerosols, cooling, and solar influences are under debate. In other words, they just haven't been able to connect it yet. But they're working on that because the CO2 they're finding is nothing to worry about. Scenarios, the IPCC, again, they're the crooks that have been lying to us through all these years that whenever they say that experts agree or consensus agrees, they're talking about the IPCC lying to us about climate change. Business as usual is unrealistic. Past emissions trends have tracked lower ranges. Urbanization, temperature records may still be biased by heat island effects. In other words, where there's cities, it's hotter because of all the people, all the pollution, all the buildings being condensed, all the heat hitting the sunlight hitting the concrete. It makes it hotter. And so the urbanization, they're recording the temperatures near the cities, and so it's creating a bias. That's insane. I mean, this is the stuff. This was all common sense to most people. If you're a farmer, you get this, right? I mean, people knew this, but they were trying to spit this lie to us. And because we're a more educated society now, because they forced college on us since the 1950s nonstop, which at first was a good thing before it became all indoctrination factories. But they kept putting us through this. They got us away from the earth. They got us away from living outside, and they just force fed us over and over again. Here's this nonsense. They showed us Captain Planet. Do you guys remember that stupid show? I kind of liked it when I was a kid. I'm not going to lie. But that show is total propaganda. All the bad guys are polluters. They're all oil barons. It's wild. Captain Planet, he's a hero. Gonna take pollution down to zero. I still remember the thing. The good news is I was raised well, so the indoctrination didn't get to me. But the point is like I was told all this stuff in the 90s. Of course, I went to school in California, so that's probably part of it. But I was told the rainforest is dying, acid rain. It was insane. It was like the scariest thing ever if we don't stop it. Meanwhile, the earth was already greener at that point because it had been greening since 1982. Lied to. And now they're lied to even worse. It's just amazing how much they've lied to us. And now we have it in an official report. I love this. Here's our response. Climate sensitivities, 1.8 Celsius, 5.7 degrees Celsius warming per CO2 doubling. Data-driven studies, this is what they're saying, the models. The models say 1.8 to 5.7 degrees Celsius. Okay. Data-driven studies suggest a lower range, 1.5 to 2.5, and that's with CO2 doubling. The models run hot, overstating past warming. Model versus observation discrepancies. Surface warming, models overshoot. There it is. Troposphere, models show stronger than observed. Oh, again, models suck. Snow cover and albedo, poorly matched. Corn belt, yields resilient despite warming. Extreme weather, hurricanes, tropical storms. No clear long-term U.S. trend. So they lied to us every time. And this happens every stinking time the weather's bad. It's, oh, this is happening so much more than usual. Oh my God, global warming. They still throw it out there. Or climate change, that's their favorite word now. They found nothing, no proof at all that it's gotten worse. Precipitation extremes, no clear increase. Tornadoes, floods, droughts, no rising trend. Wildfires, policy, land management are dominant drivers. Sea levels, global rise about maybe 8 inches since 1900. Tide gauges, no acceleration, mostly local factors like subsidence and land shifts. Projections for U.S. remain uncertain but modest. Attribution, why is it happening? Well, natural variability. I don't know what the ENSO is, but solar cycles complicates attribution. Solar irradiance may have contributed more to 20th century warming than IPCC allows. Attribution, this is them being nice when they say this more than they allow. They're basically saying, like, this is all nonsense and we have to be official about it. So we have to tell them in an official way it's nonsense. But that's what they're saying. The attribution studies have weak data support. Impacts on ecosystem and society, agriculture. This is all the good stuff it brings. CO2, fertilization boosts yields. FACE, free air CO2 enrichment studies, water use efficiency gains offset warming stress. Nutrient dilution is noted, but benefits outweigh costs. Interesting right there. You know, our soil is pretty nutrient drained because we don't let it rest. We've just been plugging it and we keep putting like Miracle Grow on it and just we're artificially pumping our soil, just trying to keep growing on the soil, and it's leaching it of all its nutrients. So that could become an issue. But they found that in general, the nutrient dilution is there, but the benefits still outweigh the costs, which is very interesting and good to hear because some people are declaring that an immediate emergency. Extreme weather risks and mortality. Cold weather mortality exceeds heat-related deaths. Energy access, heating and cooling, is more decisive for human survival than climate. Right there. That is the money line right there. Energy access to heating and cooling is more decisive for human survival than climate. In other words, having a heater and having air conditioning is more important and more affects human survival than anything the climate's ever done. And that's true. Think about it. Think how hard, like, have you ever been through a hot day and just like, in the South, it gets 100 degrees, 85% humidity, and you just thought to yourself, how the hell did they live through this 75 years ago with no air conditioning? Think how miserable that was. And think about the fact that some of them had to go out in the heat. You think heat exhaustion is a thing now? Oh, man. Policies restricting affordable energy could increase mortality. And there again, there's another money line right there. The policies restricting affordable energy could increase mortality. That's a nice official government way of saying, if we keep trying to fight climate change, we are going to kill people. That's the real layman's term interpretation for you guys. So policies restricting affordable energy could increase mortality. Just wild. Economic impacts and SCC, climate change effect on GDP, uncertain, often overstated. SCC models vary widely from negative high driven by assumptions. Evidence supports lower SCC than used in policy debates. Global impact of U.S. policy. U.S. emissions reductions alone have negligible effect on in other words, we can't stop it. Nothing we can do can stop it. Impacts diffuse and delayed. Suggests U.S. should weigh costs of mitigation versus marginal climate effect. You think? Again, that's them nicely saying you're absolutely stupid if you think we can do anything to fix this. All we're doing is hurting people. We're making the costs go up, and we could end up causing more deaths by taking away the luxuries of energy, heating, and cooling. And there it is, hurting our food, negating our, I mean, think about the damage. People talk about all this clean energy stuff. By the way, this report blows away the entire argument for clean energy. It just does. It's like, we don't need it. And what by clean energy, I mean like wind, solar, we don't need it. Now, if we could find an efficient way to use it, I'm all for it. I'm all for using the environment. But here's the problem with wind. In order to get enough wind, you have to fill up all these beautiful fields, valleys, hills with these nasty looking windmills that break down, that have to be battery powered half the time. And they barely produce anything. For solar, you got to make everybody's roofs look. Listen, I worked in roofing for a while. Solar panels destroy roofs. They just do. They rip them up. They make them less efficient. They make the roofs last. They don't last as long. And a lot of them, they don't give you the power. What's it called? The offset. They don't produce enough to offset it. If we could figure this out, fine. If you want those ugly things on your roof, even though we don't need them, fine. That's fine. If it lowers your bill, and that's what it should be about, though, making it more efficient. Because we're proven now that we don't need it for the climate. We don't need it for the climate. Now, I'm not for pollution. That's stupid. But now we have catalytic converters and all these ways that we've cut down pollution even way before we went into this green energy. And it's just showing that it hurts us more than anything else. It's just crushing us. So here's the overall conclusion. Climate change is real, but model scenarios and media overstate its severity. CO2 has benefits like plant growth, water efficiency, reduced coal mortality. U.S. climate policy has little global impact, while aggressive decarbonization could harm prosperity and mortality, it said. The report frames energy access, innovation, economic growth as higher priorities and radical emissions cuts. And yeah, so that's part one. Here's the implications if this thing is completely correct. We would have to reframe the entire climate threat. It's not as existential. Climate change would be a moderate, manageable challenge, not a civilization-ending threat. Moderate, manageable challenge. And honestly, I don't even think it's a challenge. Let's just be real. But this is them being nice. CO2 is a net positive. At least in near to medium term, rising CO2 provides real benefits like greening, higher crop yields, water use efficiency. And so we need to focus on adaptation over mitigation. Policy and economics, aggressive decarbonization is losing justification. Costly net zero policies are economically irrational. The social cost if this collapses, if SCC is near zero or even negative net benefits, then regulations based on are scientifically baseless. That undermines the EPA rules, SCC disclosures, ESG mandates, etc. This is a bombshell report. This is absolutely massive. This destroys so much of their power. And by they, I mean the deep state, the globalists, the corporations. I mean, you name it. You name one of the things we've decided is our enemy. One of the things that's anti the regular person. They have used climate change to steal from you, to keep you under their thumb, make you less powerful, take away your freedoms. You name it. It's there. And this undermines all of it. And you wonder why I'm the only person who brought up this report. The policy transition should happen. Logical path would be expanding cheap, abundant energy like fossil and nuclear, with innovation gradually reducing emissions without harming growth. Exactly. Here's the political fallout. This delegitimizes climate alarmism. Media, NGOs, and institutions that push climate crisis narratives could face credibility collapse. And there it is. They built their empires on this in the modern day. That's insane. And this is why they don't want you to see this report. Global realignment. Countries like China and India who already resist emission limits would be vindicated. Well, that's not a win, but I mean, we kind of knew it was going to happen anyways. Domestic U.S. politics strengthens Trump Republican narratives. Climate hysteria is a scam. Could justify rolling back Biden era and Obama era EPA rules, which we're already doing. Thank God. Good job, Lee Zeldin. Science and Institutes is crisis of credibility. If the models and scenarios are shown to be exaggerated, public trust in the IPCC, NOAA, NASA climate units, and university programs erodes. Funding shifts. Instead of climate modeling and mitigation science, funding might pivot to practical energy R&D. God forbid we actually do research and development in practical energy. Adaptation strategies, natural variability research. Audit of science. This report suggests publication bias, you think? Overstated claims and misuse of scenarios, opening the door for investigations into scientific misconduct or groupthink. Absolutely. Here's the social and cultural ramifications. End of the climate doom narrative. Young people who have been told the world ends in 10 years face a massive disillusionment. Think of how many people, I feel so sad for these people, honestly. They were lied to about this. And this has been going on since, I mean, you could go to the 60s with the nuclear war fears, but those are a little more justified. But let's go back to the 70s since the population bomb thing came out and global cooling. Think of how many people decided not to have children because of this. It's disgusting. It's terrifying. It's horrible. And now we face a population crisis. And one of the main reasons is because of this nonsense, this BS. How many lives did it steal from? How much prosperity has this lie stolen from us? This being propagated in one way, shape, or form for over 50 years. It angers me, and it should anger you too. We have no idea how much has been stolen to us because of this nonsense that has been fed to us. This report debunks all of it, and yet nobody's reporting on this. I cannot believe I'm not even seeing this on conservative media. It makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. You know how much they've used the climate change stuff to just take away people's, like, lessen people's lives? It's one of, I don't even have words. It just makes me so angry thinking about how many lives have been stolen from, how much. I mean, I'm 41 years old, and I know this has had impacts on my life and my ability to move up and the ability of the economy to thrive during my time here on Earth. And I think of all the people in my time who were indoctrinated by this stuff and chose not to have children, just gave their money away or accepted government controls because they thought this was real. I mean, it should, every single one of you should be pissed off about this, because this is just, you should be pissed off that I'm the first one covering this in 3 weeks. 3 weeks this report's been out. This doesn't make sense. This is an official government report, CJ. It's true. And here's the reason I don't have any doubts this report is true, because all of us who've done the research already knew these things, but nobody had the guts to, or I should say this, there were people who had the guts to publish it, but they were small and they were overridden or hidden, or just like the stuff during COVID. The Peter McCullochs of the world, or Pierre Corey's, the doctors who actually had, Robert Malone's, who had the guts to stand up against what was going on in COVID and say, this is wrong. These people are wrong. They are hurting you more than helping you. And what happened to all of them? They were pushed to the side, and nobody gave them the time of day. They were called conspiracy theorists. They were called quacks. That's what happened when you challenged the climate narrative. But if you actually researched, you found these things were true. And now the government agrees with us. The government has found this out to be true. And it's an official report, and nobody's covering it. And that should piss you off. ESG unraveling. If climate risk is overstated, then trillions tied to sustainable investing lose their central justification. Pension funds and corporations could pull back. Yeah, BlackRock. BlackRock was trying to ESG everything they were touching, until Texas pushed back on them, and now the Trump administration got in. Populist fuel validates skeptics who argue climate policy was about control, wealth redistribution, and elite power, not science, which is exactly what it's always been about. Strategic implications for the U.S. energy dominance. With shale, natural gas, coal, nuclear, and innovation, U.S. could reassert itself as the world's energy superpower without guilt. We will be doing that, by the way. Economic boom. Trillions freed from subsidies, regulations could be redirected to growth, infrastructure, defense, and debt reduction. Doesn't that sound great? That's more in your paycheck, guys. That's a better future for all of you. Better future for all of you. And listen, if you're skeptical about this report, all you got to do is know this. How many bleeping times have they been wrong about projections of when things are going to go bad? If you still believe the climate nonsense, I honestly doubt your intelligence. I really do. Or your ability to critical think. I honestly do. Because Al Gore said in An Inconvenient Truth in 2006 that we had 9 years left to live. Remember, Rush Limbaugh used to have the countdown clock on to make fun of it. And then he doubled down, said 10 more years and 5 more years. And it never happens. Things never get worse. It's all been a lie forever. The population bomb was a lie. The global cooling was a lie. Global warming was a lie. Climate change is a lie. It's all a lie. Everything they tell us about the climate is a lie. And so if you don't trust this report, just trust your common sense. Honestly. Bottom line, if this report holds up, climate crisis is commonly sold as over. Real crisis is energy poverty. Billions without cheap, reliable power. Think about the third world countries that have been held back because first world countries determined they shouldn't be able to grow. And it does happen, by the way. U.S. policy would shift from restricting energy to expanding it. Reframing the debate is how do we maximize prosperity, resilience, innovation? Politically, it would vindicate climate skeptics, fuel populist movement, expose climate, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, this report, here's the official, on the official site. You can see how much longer it would have taken me to go through. This report's massive. I mean, 98, let's see, with references, it's 141 pages. So it's got all the graphs, everything. I mean, if you want to go through it, I will link to it I'll post to the link to it, the official document, so you guys can go through it if you want. I'll link to that. I'll put it in the Patreon, all of that. So listen, I had to share that with you guys tonight because that is absolutely wild